The following is a presentation of the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.
We would like to welcome you to Audio Suplex Live, brought to you by the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.
What is up, ladies, gentlemen, germs, boys, and girls?
I gotta get my shirt in this shot.
Yeah, the modern day Maharaja.
That's right.
You're getting the miles out of that, my man.
This is the second time I've worn this shirt since I bought it.
And twice on the show.
I haven't worn this on the show yet.
This hasn't been on the show yet?
No.
I swear it has.
What show did we do last time?
I can't even remember at this point.
We had Chris Chambers.
Yeah. JJ Castillo.
And JJ Castillo were on the show. And
Yeah.
what shirt did I wear?
I can't remember.
It wasn't a wrestling shirt.
What was it?
It wasn't a wrestling
Was
shirt.
it that like bar shirt that you have?
Free Bootsy?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it checks out.
But I purposely didn't wear it last week because I didn't want to distract from our guests.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So, and I had just worn it like...
Because it's not that episode wasn't about the modern day Maharaja. That was about our guests.
This one is about Maharaja.
Well,
if I have my way.
I'm glad you kind of brought that up. We'll get that, and we'll get to that in a second here. But I want to welcome back to the show, friend of the show, and member of the Audio We'll just call it. He's a member of the Audio Suplex Live family.
I'm here. I'm a regular.
What do we?
When things happen, I'll be here. All the
what did we
time.
say the other day? You're Audio Suplex Live adjacent.
Adjacent.
Yeah.
Which means I'm behind the scenes, ideas bouncing. I can talk about it, but I'm just not here all the time.
Somebody. I think it was like an earlier episode when we had like Mike Cox on or something like that. Good friend of the show. Who? Shouts out. I described you and I as the Hall and Nash of the operation, and then him as like the Buff Bagwell, which is not a damning thing. Like,
Mike Cox is the Buff Bagwell?
No, he would probably be the Scott Norton of the group. Maybe the Vincent too.
What's Matt Goodfriend?
Goodfriend?
TV Hogan?
He's the toothpick of Razor Ramon's mouth.
Who's Hogan?
who? Yeah. Well, Hogan. No, Hogan would be Joe.
Oh, holding it all together.
This is the trifecta right here. It's
Holding
you and
it
I
all
are the
together.
outsiders. Joe is the glue. He's the third man.
I've never seen Hogan wear a cat shirt in my life.
All right.
I've seen him fuck his best friend's girlfriend once.
That's it. First F-bomb.
Hey,
They were about
right.
a minute and a half in. That didn't take long at all.
I just
right.
watched that Netflix thing about Gawker.
In case you guys were ever wondering whether or not our show was PG-13, it's not. It is 100%
PG.
not PG. So we've got a lot to get into this week. We are doing our first ever award show. This is the 2017 Audio Suplex Live Thusfar. We'll get to that in a little bit. Do want to talk about a couple things before we get into that. First off, shouts out to our guests last week, Chris Chambers, JJ Castillo. Fantastic episode. The numbers are they're in. Guys, it's a hit. We have a hit on our hands. And not to mention that, if you guys haven't checked out on our YouTube channel, you can check out some of the footage from Northwest Ohio Wrestling's Uprising 10 event that Corey and I were there and filmed at. You've got a commentary on it, doing gangbusters out
Yeah,
here.
it was a fun time putting that together.
Yeah.
Commentary was cool. We're actually going to be at Uprising 11 this Saturday.
Yeah. So if you guys are fans of the show and you're listening, come say what's up to us. I'm really awkward in person, so I'll probably just be like, hey, and just kind of like walk off. But, you know.
Yeah, and I'll spit in your face if you want.
Yeah.
So
For a nominal fee.
Well, yeah.
I'll do it for free.
For people who don't want to be cool.
I'll do it. No apples involved. We're talking straight
Straight loogie.
tobacco chew. No, I don't.
Oh,
I don't
man.
chew
I see that
tobacco.
tongue going on in there, too. You don't brush it all, do you, Doug? It's like, I don't want that. You need an apple, Doug.
Jesus. No proper news this week, so we won't do the whole news drop or anything like that. I did want to talk briefly about the New Japan Pro Wrestling G1 special that was this past weekend from I want to say it was Huntington Beach or something like that.
Yes,
California.
Yeah, great highlights over there.
Long
Unfortunately,
Beach,
Yeah, it was Long Beach, California.
which is right next to Huntington
Yeah,
Beach.
yeah. So fantastic couple days of wrestling. I know you guys didn't really watch it fully or anything. I watched a good chunk of it, probably about, I'd say 80% of both the shows together. It was
a lot of wrestling.
It's a lot of wrestling. The tournament itself was fantastic. The first night had a really good match between Kenny Omega and Michael Elgin, who will also be at Uprising 11. Hint,
No
hint,
fucking
nudge,
way.
nudge. Yeah. Second F-bomb of the show. And the second night had the finals of the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship Tournament, crowning Kenny Omega over Ishii.
Called it.
Ishii, if you will. If you're Ishii, if you're Jim Ross. Ishii, if you actually know how to pronounce it.
So Ishii,
Yeah, sure.
because I don't know how to pronounce it.
Kenny Omega the official face of New Japan Pro Wrestling in the United States.
There is no better man in professional wrestling right now than Kenny.
Yeah,
he's a real American, and he proved it.
He's 100% Canadian, but aside from that, yeah, he's that's the second Canadian to be the face of America. You think about it, Kenny.
Currently.
Yeah. And they're both
And
KO.
they're both KOs.
The KO U.S.
man.
champions. They could be a tag team.
Conspiracy theorists, make sure you guys start looking into that.
Oh, no. What are they doing?
So, yeah, if you guys get a chance, go back and watch that. Some superb wrestling over the weekend. I'm excited to see because apparently they're going to be opening a New Japan office in the U.S. in 2017 and then launching into a actual dojo and basically expanding into America in 2018. So,
I can't wait for all of my indie wrestling friends to get signed to New Japan.
It's going to be great.
On the local front.
You going to apply for the job in the office?
I actually, you know what, dude? If they're like hiring like a clerical work or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
we're working front desk.
Where do I sign up?
Yeah.
That's what job you want?
I'm going to get a nameplate and everything. Name, Mark. Like,
I can't reach it quick enough, but you just imagine that.
I'm thinking I'm going to apply for vice president.
Vice president of New Japan Pro Wrestling United
my
States.
First item of business is rename it New Japan.
That new. Watch this ATL.
NUNU is how it'll be spelled. New.
I love it. All right. Well, now that we have all that nonsense out of the way, and without any further ado, I think it's ready to get us ready.
It's ready to get us ready.
It's time.
We're always been ready for the.
It's
ready.
time to get ready for the 2017 Audio Suplex Live Thusfar Awards.
Whoa!
That's right.
Orioles.
We went all out.
The most prestigious night in wrestling video podcasting of the year. Well, thus far.
Yeah. We went all out. We got an orchestra.
Yeah. You guys can't see it.
They're off camera.
Yeah, they're off camera. But yeah, so this is it, guys. We've made it.
Let's explain how this is going to work. We're going to have several categories.
We have 8 categories where we'll be awarding the best in the year for WWE. We should say that caveat right now. It is WWE only.
You can't expect us to watch everything.
So there is a match of the year category. It's with the asterisk of saying not Omega Okada 2. So
or the first one.
Or the first one, which was also this year, actually.
Which blows out all of the other matches.
Yeah. So it's with the caveat of saying that it is WWE only. But yeah, so basically we kind of are going from January to now, going over what we think is the best in each of these categories for years. Now, each category is going to have 5 nominees. We'll present the nominees to you, and then we'll talk about the nominees a little bit after that and why we decided those were the 5 nominees for that category. And then we will present the winner, and we'll commiserate on that a little bit. And then the winners will send us their contact information, and we will actually mail you your trophy.
Yeah.
At some point.
We tried to get them on the show. We did reach out. No responses?
No responses, actually, believe it or not. Not a single.
Now, I will say that we didn't try to contact them until about 45 minutes ago.
Funny,
so.
I emailed Alexa Bliss, and all of my emails actually came back returned and said something about being blocked. I don't know what that means. So said.
Maybe she heard what you said about
cease and desist
about her butt.
No,
and what you would do.
Well, speaking of butts, are you ready to lean into our first category of the evening?
What does it have to do with butts?
I don't know.
Okay, let's do it.
Our first category of the evening is Tag Team of the Year thus far, and the nominees are The Revival, Sheamus and Cesaro, The Authors of Pain, The Usos, and DIY.
Oh, snap. Some pretty decent teams.
Hashtag DIY, hashtag RIP.
Yes.
So let's break it down a little bit, guys, here.
Well, first of all, I noticed one thing. 3 of those teams are NXT teams, which is crazy. That says a lot about what NXT is producing down there, tag team wise.
Yes.
Or at least what they were producing.
Yeah, if it's any indication, like the back half of the year, last year and then coming into this year for the NXT tag team scene, it's fantastic. I mean, you need not look any further than NXT Takeover. Was it San Antonio with the triple threat between DIY, AOP, and the Revival?
At the Royal Rumble weekend?
Yeah. It was just an absolute barnstormer of a match. Spoiler alert. fantastic. So they've been just cranking out teams left and right. And then the Revival starting off hot, coming in the night after Mania. Huge pop for their debut, knocking over the ice cream cart. Absolutely just...
I think one of the things that hurt them is the injury.
Yes.
Obviously.
I believe it was Dash Wilder with the jaw
Dash
injury.
Wilder broke his jaw.
So-
So they were out of action for the last, month and a half. They just recently came back.
Yeah.
So I'm impressed with what they've been able to do, even with the injury included in there.
Right. Now, I'm going to look it up real quick because I'm actually jogging my memory here. Sheamus and Cesaro, where were they right around the Royal Rumble? Were they were a team at that point?
They were a tag team, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. I think they were still kind of iffy with each other. And
Yeah.
That's kind of how it was. Sheamus was the bad guy. Cesaro was the good guy. But they were teaming up because Mick Foley is the worst.
yeah, really, really good GM figure for Raw at the time.
But they have definitely come around a lot.
Yeah, multi-time tag team champions since January. So currently involved in a heated feud with the Hardys, which is probably the best tag team feud currently going on, I'd say, on any brand. Maybe with the caveat of saying the New Day and the Usos.
I
but
would say that's maybe.
it's a pretty good feud.
It's got some.
It's all right. It's getting
got
there.
Heat.
It's got some legs. It's got some merch at least. Both teams have T-shirts. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
So.
Authors of Pain, obviously the greenest team on here.
Yeah.
They're starting to come into their own and become an actual powerhouse that actually has some skill in the ring, as opposed to just squash matches, which is what last year that's all they were about, is squash matches for the most part.
And after the heel turn and we'll get into this a little bit with DIY at Take It for Chicago, they are the team on NXT to beat. I mean, there really isn't another team in the picture right now besides maybe Heavy Machinery and Sanity. So they are the team du jour, if you will, the team of whatever
NXT?
du jour means. Yeah, whatever du jour means. Yeah.
Du jour, it's a type of pizza.
Oh yes, of course.
Du jour, no.
So the Usos.
The Usos. Okay, so their heel turn, which I believe happened last year.
Yeah.
Revitalized the tag team. Definitely.
Gangbusters.
Yeah. What do you think, Anthony? What do you think about the Usos?
Oh no, they've been great for a while, and then obviously with the heel turn, getting them something fresh, they kind of get to be themselves like a little bit, keep it real out there, because they were always great on the mic, but they weren't allowed to be, due to them being faces, being so heavily scripted, being for the kids.
Yeah, the face paint Usos ran its course.
Yeah.
They do the chant at the beginning, like, ooh, we say ooh, you say oh.
Yeah, the Haka was cool, but the Haka got old. A lot of it got old. It was
they've
more
been
than
the
stale.
same gimmick for years.
And now they look like the co-assistant managers of a Jimmy Jazz. And
there you go.
They come out with Air Force Ones. And
I love Millennium Fashion.
talk about prisons, which is kind of weird, but
I'm impressed. I'm impressed with what they're doing. They've been the most dominant team on SmackDown since they've won the tag titles from American Alpha, and they've definitely cemented themselves as the top team to beat on SmackDown. I mean, obviously we got the New Day entering the picture now from Raw. They just recently made their debut, so we'll see how the top of the card looks on SmackDown tag team wise. But yeah, I think they're definitely. I've never liked the Usos until now, the heel turn, and now I'm a fan of the Usos. And then obviously our last nominee is the DIY, which no longer a tag team.
Kind of suffering the same thing as the Revival, except for instead of an injury, it's now that they're broken up.
They split up, but for the first 6 months of this year, which is what we're looking at, I mean, they were a tag team 5.5 of those 6 months or whatever. So they definitely qualify, and they have been putting on ridiculous tag team matches with the Revival and the Authors of Pain. So obviously they're in the same light.
It would almost be a crime to exclude them and put the other two in. Like, you need all three of those
you
teams.
couldn't have those without.
Yeah,
exactly. And they're all former tag team champions, NXT tag team champions. So they've proved their worth in NXT. And if you literally go and watch any of their takeover matches ever, you are going to be impressed, even if you don't know who they are. So a lot of great options for our tag team of the year. Let me ask you a question before we decide on a winner. Of these 5 teams, whose T-shirt would you buy?
Oh, the Revival, hands down. The fact that I don't own one yet genuinely shocks me.
You want that?
I want the no
flips,
flips, just fists.
Yeah. I agree.
I
would buy a Revival shirt now.
I did kind of like the arrowhead that the War and Peace of the AOP.
Yeah. The
Like
Aquaman.
yeah.
See, I like that one a lot too. We saw, wasn't there people wearing it when we went
to Chicago?
Yeah, so when we were in Chicago, we saw people wearing it, and like,
it's not bad.
My first glance at it, I'm like, if I don't know about wrestling, I'm not going to know that's a wrestling shirt. I'm just going to think that's a badass logo.
Yeah,
which is cool. It always helps when your T-shirt is a cool design, other than just saying the wrestler that you like. So
yeah.
That was the reason why I don't think I'll ever buy a DIY shirt. Like the classic, poster thing
like
is
their
cool,
shirts.
but it's like, no, it looks like you did it yourself.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not a big fan of their shirts, actually. The Usos Day One-ish, I don't think I would wear that.
I believe it's actually pronounced Day One is H.
Okay, the
Yes.
Day One is H shirts.
Yeah,
I
which
don't
I still don't know what that means.
They haven't really gone into that.
They're on their day one-ish, man. Like,
Day One-ish.
because, on PG, you can't say shit. That's what ish is.
Day
It's
one
the censored
shit.
version of the word shit. So
Out here educating the people.
Yeah, that's what it is. Hey, man,
we know.
So wait a
on
minute.
our
What
day
you're
one
saying is, if I say I'm ticklish, I'm actually saying I'm tickle shit.
Oh, no. That's not an image I wanted.
You guys ready to get into the winner?
Let's
of the
find out.
category?
I'm actually interested as who won, because these are, like I said, anyone could really win based on the year so far.
All right,
Thus far.
let's go ahead and get to the next screen here, Joe. And the winner for the Audio Suplex Live Thusfar Award for Tag Team of the Year thus far, Sheamus and Cesaro.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Your current Raw Tag Team Champions.
How?
they have had.
A dominant year.
What's more amazing about this award ceremony is that Corey and I were collectively able to decide on one winner for each category. There was like no fuss or fighting over it. We were like, yeah, that checks out.
The people.
No, the people's opinions don't matter.
This is ASL's award.
Yeah,
We're
no, this
handing
is
out the
the
awards.
This isn't the People's Choice Awards. This is the Audio Suplex Live Awards. This is me and Corey sitting at a bar saying like, no, this is the winner.
I'm flabbergasted.
Do you agree with
Floored.
with our pick of Sheamus and Cesaro?
No, you guys are nuts.
Who do you think should have won the award? The Revival?
People who probably aren't not even nominated.
No, who?
To be quite honest
A
with you.
WWE team? Who?
Yeah,
The Hardys?
American Alpha. Is
No.
great.
No.
It's great.
I think
What'd they do this year?
one of
Lose
the-
the tag titles and disappear for 4
yeah,
months?
one of the
Creative's fault.
one of the criteria is that you actually have to be on TV. So and then
Well, I guess I don't.
Well, then why
I
is
don't get the full
AOP,
version.
DIY, and Revival on here? Because NXT's not on TV.
oh my, you know what I mean. Like you have to actually be on WWE program in some capacity. I forgot Chad Gable existed until about 2 weeks ago.
Chad Gable's been doing great the last 2 weeks. His match with AJ Styles this week on SmackDown was great.
It's been fantastic. I just can't wait till Jason Jordan, kicks him in the face, and then we have another tag team breaking up this year.
I don't think
It's a weird year to be a
Shelton
tag team,
Benjamin?
by the way.
they're breaking everybody up.
Everybody. So, yeah,
Crazy.
I think for me personally, Sheamus and Cesaro represent taking two guys who were just kind of lost in the woods in the mid-card and making the best out of it. Like, when they first announced the Best of 7 series last year, we collectively groaned and groaned and groaned about, oh my God, this is going to be absolutely excruciating. And now that we're about like probably 8 months into it, a year into this, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of them on a weekly basis. I think they have gelled as a team. They have great chemistry together. I love the whole, hey, we're just a bunch of foreign bullies that beat up people and drink a lot. Like, it's fantastic. It's fun. I like it.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
They've been doing a good job.
So
Ready to move on to our next category?
let us move on.
All right. Our next category is going to be pay-per-view / event of the year thus far. So our nominees for this category, we have NXT TakeOver Orlando, which took place
In Orlando.
That's WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah.
Our next nominee will be WrestleMania 33, which also happened in Orlando.
Beautiful Orlando.
Nominee number 3, we have the United Kingdom Championship Tournament, which took place in the
United Kingdom. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe it was
I'm not going to know where this next one's from. Number 4, I don't know, Manchester.
Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, Elimination Chamber. That took place in...
I want to say it was like St. Louis or something like that. I can't remember.
No, St. Louis was last month, but Man in the Bank was St. Louis. Yeah, I don't know. All right, so Elimination Chamber is
It
number
was
4.
in a city.
And TakeOver Chicago is number 5. We were actually at TakeOver Chicago.
So there might be
super exciting.
What a time.
Yeah.
Might be a little bit of bias there.
So let's dissect these pay-per-views. Obviously, we've all watched these. Some of these pay-per-views we watched more than once because they were that good.
Yes.
What are your takes on TakeOver Orlando? So that would have been WrestleMania weekend. You have I guess we should have pulled up the cards for these maybe. Takeover Orlando was that the last triple threat tag match?
No, that would have Takeover Orlando, I believe. Let's see, I've got it actually pulled up right here. So the card for Takeover Orlando started with Sanity going up against Roderick Strong, Cassius Ohno, Ty Dillinger, and Ruby Riott. Aleister Black made his debut against Andrade Almas.
Yes.
AOP, DIY, and Revival was at Takeover Orlando.
That was their final. Right? Yep, their final meeting.
Asuka over Ember Moon, and then Bobby Roode defeating Shinsuke Nakamura
in his last NXT match.
Yeah. So stack hard from top. I remember going into that, everybody just kind of being like, "Wow, this is going to be underwhelming." And then that's twice this year.
I feel like they always do that.
You go into an NXT Takeover card and
they exceed your expectations.
Yeah,
easily,
hands down. Yeah. So
the only thing that I think that was truly memorable from it was the tag match.
That was the highlight, without a shadow.
Which is how it's been the last 4 or 5 takeovers. It's usually
it was
the
just
tag
like
team.
really, really fun watching the Revival and DIY work together, trying to take down AOP, and it not work.
Oh my god, them hitting their finishers together, but with the mixed match.
Yeah, that was so sick.
One of my favorite spots.
Yeah, Shatter Machine with.
Yeah, super good. We'll talk about WrestleMania a little bit. Yeah. Fantastic. There was a lot of cool stuff. WrestleMania. There wasn't really a match that stood out. I would say probably
there's a lot of cool moments.
Which and
we'll
that's
talk
what
about
WrestleMania
moments later.
is. Yeah,
we'll talk about the moments later. But like the Hardys came back at WrestleMania.
Yep.
Pop.
We had the Undertaker Roman Reigns match. Goldberg, Brock Lesnar.
Fantastic.
So a lot of big matches or big events happened at this pay-per-view, and I think it really did exceed expectations. Going into this WrestleMania season, as always, you kind of, is it going to be as bad as last year's WrestleMania? And I think they finally kind of broke away from kind of having WrestleMania be their worst of the big four.
Yeah.
Which,
everybody makes the joke, it's casual season. Like last year when they brought back The Rock and he took up a 35-minute segment lighting his name on fire.
Yeah.
And, the year before that with like all the fanfare of like Triple H versus Sting and this, that, and the other thing. Like, Manias have been kind of lackluster the last couple of years, so it was refreshing to see. It was 7+ hours.
That's the only real negative I can say about it. Is it is really long. It's a lot of wrestling to watch. Yeah. So it does take a toll on you sitting there watching wrestling.
And any show that involves a Pitbull concert halfway through is usually gets like a negative mark from me. But that's just
It's on the list because of the quality of matches. I mean, they have like 14 matches on that card, so it's not that hard to have a couple good ones. But overall that was pretty good.
UK Championship Tournament. This was big for me because it introduced the WWE audience to a lot of guys on the UK scene that are absolutely tearing it up.
That they have maybe never even heard of.
Exactly. I mean, you can start with us and our. Yeah, exactly. Like our love of Pete Dunne, like it begins and ends the conversation right there. But then you add into that Wolfgang, Trent Seven,
right,
Tyler Bate, the inaugural champion, Jordan Devlin, and I'm forgetting a ton of other guys.
Jordan Devlin's
fantastic.
I wish he would come to WWE, but
a
lot of great matches, and literally from front to back, every match on the card was a quality match.
Oh yeah,
you could tell, especially in the finals, these guys wanted to prove that they are legit.
Oh, yeah.
And they definitely made me fans of a lot of the guys in the tournament I became a fan of who I'd never even heard of until that day. When I watched it, I'm like, okay, who are these guys? And they sold me on themselves day.
It had all the trappings of a good tournament. You had some upsets in there with Wolfgang going over Trent Seven in the semifinal or the quarterfinals, I should say. You had a really good feel-good story with Tyler Bate winning the whole thing, even through injury. You created a top-level heel character in Pete Dunne. Like, you literally just made him the most vile, despised character. Like, and that's the thing. The crowd that was there is generally a smarky crowd.
Right.
So
the fact that they bought that and bit into him being a super mega heel who is blatantly cheating and going above and beyond. Yeah. It was pretty decent.
Elimination Chamber.
So obviously the highlight of this pay-per-view was the Elimination Chamber match, which I would argue is one of the best Elimination Chamber matches to date.
Hands down.
Especially towards the end there, the way it ended. It made everybody in the match look super strong. It kept a lot of the storylines continued into the match, which was cool. So you got to see those play out. We also saw a couple other matches. Alexa Bliss
lost the title.
Lost her title to
Naomi
that night. Correct. Although she ended up getting injured and then losing the belt back to Bliss, right?
It's a pretty decent undercard too. You had the tag team turmoil for the SmackDown champion or the tag team championships. You had Nikki Bella versus Natalya, which we kind of talked about that not being a great feud at the time when we were talking about it.
Mojo Rawley pulling out a huge victory over Kurt Hawkins in the pre-show.
Massive. It launched him into superstardom now. He is actually the winner of the Andre the Giant.
Yeah. So I would say overall, I mean, obviously the reason this one's on the list would be mostly for that Elimination Chamber match, which really was one of the best.
It was a strong enough match to make this a contender for the show of the year.
Absolutely. And then our final nominee, of course, NXT TakeOver Chicago. We are very familiar with this particular pay-per-view.
Very near and dear to our hearts, as all three of us actually were in attendance for the show. And it's not hyperbole to say that when we were at the show and we talked about Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne earlier, that match itself is if the Elimination Chamber match gets that show on here, then that match itself gets that show on here
easily.
And then there's other matches.
Yeah, and then there's Hideo Itami and Bobby Roode. And,
exactly. You get the tag team match.
How many glorious DDTs were those?
Beautiful.
How beautiful were they?
DIY taking on Authors of Pain.
Yeah.
We were there for the heartbreak. #DIY.
Why?
Well, we'll get into that a little
Like
bit later, too.
we walked away to see all of it still down the halls, and still leaving with chills.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so let's get into it. Obviously,
You ready to reveal the winner?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
And the winner of pay-per-view / event of the year for Audio Suplex Live Thusfar Awards goes to the United Kingdom Championship Tournament.
It was fantastic.
It was lit.
It was lit. I would say I was torn between TakeOver Chicago and the UK tournament. Obviously, for the same match happened at both shows with different results.
I think the Tyler Bate Pete Dunne match from Chicago was obviously the better of the two.
Yeah.
But then you add into that Mark Andrews versus Pete Dunne and Trent Seven versus Wolfgang.
Exactly.
And there was just so many fantastic matches from top to bottom.
Absolutely.
The whole damn show.
Yeah, and that's what really cemented your Tyler Bates, your Pete Dunnes, your Trent Sevens as okay, this is it. This is the WWE UK scene.
I like how we only just keep mentioning, British Strong Style and the Mustache Mountain, though.
I said Mark Andrews. I said
Yeah.
Wolfgang. I'm a big Wolfgang guy.
It was the three in succession. Like, we know, guys.
No, we heard of them.
Well, I will say the one thing that they have going for them, and true of any indie show, if you go to an indie wrestling show, they're going to go above and beyond and do a lot more crazier things, maybe some more dangerous spots that you won't see on WWE TV because WWE is PG, 1, and 2, they don't want to injure their superstars.
Yeah.
Whereas these guys are out there trying to prove themselves, to the crowd and to the fans at home that they're people that you need to know their name. And they definitely, like I said before, I realized who these guys were after seeing this, and I'm definitely a big fan of a lot of them. So I think that does it for this round, or this particular award. What do we got next?
I think coming up now, our category for the Thusfar Awards here would be...
I'm on the edge of my seat.
We delaying much?
Oh, yeah. We're actually going to talk about Feud of the Year thus far.
So what are the nominees for Feud?
So we have the nominees for Feud of the Year thus far are Adrian... well, I went all the way down with that.
The whole
government there.
Yeah.
We had Neville versus A-Double, Austin Aries. Second nominee being Brock Lesnar and Goldberg.
Ooh.
Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns. Chris Jericho. Oh, jeez. I was not ready for that. We also had KO versus Y2J.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then AOP,
DIY,
Revival, basically just
The whole
all of NXT's tag team.
Yeah.
So
Their tag division.
kind of going back to point one there.
Yeah, you can't talk about one without talking the other.
Exciting.
Yeah.
One giant feud there.
So let's dissect these a little bit. All of these feuds definitely had a lot of buildup. A lot of these matches took place over several pay-per-views, and some of them, in the case of Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman, are still going on today. So these have been going on for months.
Yes.
The one thing I will say about all of these is I don't think any of them overstayed their welcome as far as a feud is concerned. None of them got to the point where you're like, okay, these guys are wrestling again.
Right.
It isn't Noam Dar versus Cedric Alexander. That's not what we're seeing here as a feud that is continuing for months.
And the build through all these was really just kind of they were all unique in their own way. So you had we'll start with Neville and Austin Aries. So their feud built through just a series of really good vignettes and segments and a feud of really good matches. Whereas as opposed to Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens, where it built through their friendship, basically just deteriorating,
teaming up, helping each other out, and then getting annoyed with each other.
And then you look at Goldberg, Lesnar, the two barely touched each other. They were on TV once every 3 weeks, and still you were engaged in the feud.
I've never been more excited about a match that was so short in my life.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Easily the best match under 2 minutes I've ever seen.
They booked it beautifully. So I really don't have a lot to go. You look at these feuds, they were all fantastic in their own respective way. I don't really have a lot to say about them individually, just because I thought they were all really good.
I'll say the tag team one, no matter what match you saw in that feud, they were all gold.
Yes.
Solid. I mean, obviously, Dave Meltzer didn't give them 5 stars for their matches, but in my book, those are 5-star tag team matches.
Without a doubt.
Easily. Easily some of the best tag matches I've ever seen in my life. Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman, I think it's a unique situation where WWE's portraying Roman Reigns as a face, Braun Strowman as the heel, but the crowd is getting behind the heel because they enjoy seeing, Roman Reigns get beat up. So it could really go either way. I mean,
the Neville and Austin Aries. Now you are too.
And I didn't feel like that one went on too long. I feel like they ended it honestly, up, at the right time.
Yeah. My only thing about Neville Aries is I was a bit curious on how the wins got traded out in that. I felt like it was that was the first cruiserweight feud to feel like it was important.
Right.
They've
never done that before.
And I kind of wish it would have been it would have ended differently. I would have liked to see Aries win the belt at the end of it and have it for at least a little bit, and maybe Neville wins it back for through nefarious means or whatever he wants to do. But I don't know. That's my only knock on that one right there is I just don't like the way it ended. But that's just me. You ready to get into the winner here?
Let's figure out who won. What do you got, Ajax?
All right, so the winner for Feud of the Year thus far, Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns.
Yay!
I'm not finished with you!
We're not finished. It is not finished. It is still going.
I'm not finished with you!
This could be the next great feud that goes on through the years.
Watch these two wrestle forever. Literally fight forever.
Fight forever.
There are two, Superman and Doomsday. They're just made to pummel the ever-living shit out of each other. That is what this feud is to me. It's just a big dude, a big dog, just beating the hell out of each other.
And it's entertaining.
It makes wrestling fun again. This feud takes me back to 1998 watching Monday Night Raw. Mm-hmm. You're talking Kane and The Undertaker or Austin and The Rock. It's just dumb, fun wrestling, and I love it.
I'm definitely a big fan.
I can't wait till Sunday. Ambulance match? Nom, 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 nom. Sign me the hell up. All right.
Let's move on to our next award. Travis, what do we got?
We have the 2017 thus far for Most Improved of the Year. So it's actually a mixed gender. So we have a couple guys and a couple girls in this one.
There's one girl.
Let's take a look at the nominees thus far. Alexa Bliss. Jinder Mahal.
The Maharaja.
Braun Strowman. Baron Corbin. And Neville.
Oh man, I love all of these.
This is a really tough category. This is probably one of the hardest ones we had.
Yeah.
Kind of deciding on a winner, just because they've all done things to kind of prove themselves.
Oh yeah, I mean, just let's start right off the rip with Alexa Bliss.
Right.
First woman to win both brands' women's championship.
Right.
Kind of came out of obscurity when she came up from NXT. I don't think anybody really gave her.
No, I wasn't expecting much from her at all when they brought her up to the main roster.
Called her up and were like, Okay.
Let's roll with it.
Because she wasn't in NXT for a super long time, I don't think.
No, she was. She was down there forever.
Oh, yeah,
but even in NXT, she was never mixed up in the women's division.
Right. She wasn't one of the 4 horsewomen. She
Yeah.
wasn't. She was a manager.
She was an afterthought. At first she was like a cutesy sparkle splash, like that was like her whole thing, and then she did the whole Blake and Murphy dubstep meets Freddy Krueger thing.
Right.
And there was a couple highlights in that. I mean, NXT Takeover Brooklyn, the first one was a really big highlight with Vaudevillains versus Blake and Murphy. But I mean, aside from that, like her time in NXT wasn't really. But she's one of those, like, you look at her in NXT and you go, that's main roster. That's somebody who's going to translate well to the main roster, and that they're just going to go. Like, she doesn't have a quirky gimmick that a lot of people in NXT ended up stuck with. You know, not saying anybody in particular, Bayley, but like she translates well. She's got, first off, her emotions are fantastic. I can sit here and talk about Alexa Bliss all day. So let's move on.
Let's talk about my pick, the modern day Maharaja, our fair WWE champion, the face of the WWE.
Where was
the Gold Star of India?
Where was he in January? Was he even employed with WWE at that point? I don't remember.
I think he was back by then. He was back when the split is when they hired him.
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah, you're
the
right.
Split would have been last July.
But even still, like January, what was he doing? Like that really bad feud with him and Rusev, or like the
oh, they were like a tag team.
Yeah, but also not like
tag team. Yeah, they were just thrown together, and then they started competing with each other.
They split the same night,
joke.
and they wrote off Rusev the same night because they fought Big Show.
Yeah. And he's really just kind of like, he stepped it up. Like, I think WrestleMania was really the start of it when he was in that final 2 for the, of the armbar tournament or armbar battle royal.
Yeah.
He made his return on the July 27th episode.
But then literally
Raw.
just waited around in obscurity.
He just moved around, but it really was
really bad feud with Enzo and Cass.
Split.
Yeah.
They really didn't have anything for him.
Yeah.
They just kind of plugged him in.
Well, then they found something for him eventually, and it was in the form of the WWE Championship. And probably just one of the craziest moves that they've made the entire year.
Thus far,
one would even say. So, yeah. So, I mean, strong argument for Jinder Mahal. Let's talk about Braun Strowman.
Oh.
A man among men.
A monster among men.
Wait, that's what it is.
Would even say.
A man among men.
I mean, we can even Braun Strowman and Baron Corbin kind of fit that both, because I feel like they're almost parallel images of one another on just different brands.
I mean, obviously Braun's a little bit bigger, but yeah, they both play that monster, that unstoppable force for their show.
There's wrinkles in their characters that separate them out from one another a little bit, but I think they've both kind of they came up from NXT. Braun a little bit before Baron Corbin. Once again, dwindled around in obscurity a little bit, was a Wyatt family member. Wasn't really good in the ring or very impressive. But once they hit the gas pedal, and I think the Royal Rumble was huge for both of these guys because they had that huge Baron Corbin eliminating.
Well, everyone was wondering, one of these guys going to win?
Yeah.
I mean, both of these guys are up-and-comers that, even though we might not have saw it then, were potentially ready for the main event picture.
Yeah.
And I mean, they did put on a pretty good show at the Royal Rumble,
and they've only got exponentially better in the ring. I think Baron Corbin benefits from having Sami Zayn and AJ Styles to feud with because he can learn a lot from them. Whereas
quality matches,
Whereas Braun Strowman, all he has to do is just be big and beat the hell out of Roman Reigns, and he's over.
That's all you need.
He's selling like gangbusters right now. And last but not least, Adrian Neville. Let's talk about Neville.
He's been dominant. And this is another guy where, kind of like the Usos, before the heel turn, they weren't booking him well. I mean, I could care less about Adrian Neville, but I thought he was a decent wrestler.
The best thing he ever did was bring in Green Arrow and do a match against Stardust.
Yeah.
Before this.
Before this. And he was an NXT champion, but he was probably closer to the Bo Dallas side of NXT champions than he was the Finn Balor side of NXT champions. Are
you saying Finn Balor's the best NXT champion?
He's in that conversation.
Samoa Joe.
Yeah, he's in that conversation as well.
Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah. They're all in that conversation. But what I'm saying is Neville isn't like the first name that you're like, NXT champion, former NXT champion, because they never talked about it. But once they brought him back as a heel and put him as that is the big baddie. He's the Braun Strowman of the Cruiserweight division.
Yeah.
And
unstoppable. They booked him extremely strong.
Yeah.
And his characters are strong. So, I'm interested to see.
Let us not commiserate anymore. Let's get on to the winner. of the Audio Suplex Live Thusfar Award for Most Improved thus far. It's Braun freaking Strowman.
Finished with you! I'm finished with you!
He's in a situation where, and people say this all the time, if you would have told me a year ago this is where they would be, I wouldn't believe you. I think of all the guys on the, well, Jinder Mahal is probably another one you may not believe, but Braun Strowman was around for a while, and I always thought he was terrible.
He was a freaking rosebud, for God's sake.
Too big. He just moved. He didn't move super fast. Obviously, he is really fast. He's really fast for a big guy. So super impressed with him thus far this year, and I only see bigger and better things for him as the year goes on.
Let me ask you guys a question. Who becomes a world champion, Universal or WWE, first?
Between
Braun Strowman or Baron Corbin?
Corbin.
I would say Corbin, just
Because he has the briefcase.
he has the briefcase, so he has a means to do it
And he's also on the right brand.
right away. Yeah, he could.
But it's also a quality a product in the wrestler too. So
Yeah.
it's, Braun doesn't need it. Not saying that Baron
True,
does.
true.
But
that does
Baron-
play into it for sure.
Baron would be a champion given the character that he is now. You give Braun a belt, and what happens? Like
He just becomes.
He doesn't necessarily
still
need
just
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He
he's
doesn't
just-
need it to be a crazy monster that everyone doesn't want to
Yeah,
mess around
okay.
with.
Do
know?
you see him going after champions? Are they booking him to go after champions? No, he's booking to go after your favorite
Braun Strowman
person right now.
is a situation where WWE just hasn't made in the shade. All you have to do is let him just be a monster and destroy people, and that's it. You don't have to put belts on him. I mean, he'll get a title at some point. You'd be stupid not to. But
Hopefully.
But he's just the perfect combination of just like he literally just books himself. All you have to do is just sit back in the shade and collect.
I want some competition.
That's it. Fantastic.
You
So
know, yeah.
yeah,
Good job. Let's move on to our next category. This is one of our bigger categories. This is our Male Wrestler of the Year
Corey.
thus far.
Who are the nominees?
We have 5 great potential winners here. We have Samoa Joe, who is currently involved in the Universal title picture.
Correct.
We have our European champion, or UK champion as they call it currently, Pete Dunne.
AKA Peter Three Belts.
Peter Three Belts, a.k.a. Peter England, which is his real name.
AKA the man with the busiest dentist in the world.
A.k.a. Bruiserweight all-around best ever. Okay, let's move
AKA
on.
we love you, Pete.
Our next nominee is going to be our Intercontinental Champion,
Notice me,
currently
senpai.
Miz Mike Mizanin, formerly of the Real World. You may remember him. Cleveland-born. All right. Our fourth nominee, former WWE champion and former TNA champion, AJ Styles.
What was that second part?
Former TNA champion.
I don't even know what that means.
Oh, Global Force Wrestling?
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Okay, that's what they go by now.
Yeah.
And our final nominee, who I feel like he's been nominated 100 times,
if-
Braun Strowman.
If this were the Grammys, he would be "My Heart Will Go On" by Celine Dion. He's just cleaning up this year, man.
He's been nominated quite a bit. So
Him and Pete Dunne are like lockstep for I think like the most nominations this year.
easily, yeah, involved in some way or another,
Spoiler.
So these are our 5 picks. Honestly, all of these guys have really shined this year.
Yeah. Samoa Joe. I remember Royal Rumble because when we were planning this out, we were essentially using the Royal Rumble as like the starting point as to what are we considering this year. So I remember, the Royal Rumble was a big letdown with everybody expecting Samoa Joe to make his debut there, and he didn't end up doing it until a week later. And the way they did it was exactly what I would have done.
Yeah, it was unexpected.
Yeah.
He started a feud right away. Now, they didn't really do much with that. I think that's going to hurt him a little bit because of Seth Rollins potentially, being injured there. He wasn't able to perform for that month before WrestleMania. So that threw a wrench into those plans. But the way he's been booked just in the last couple of weeks against Brock Lesnar has been insane. Like, this is really, I would just say the last maybe month of Samoa Joe's reign of this year has really what has put him in this top 5 list. I will easily say I don't know who's going to win the Universal Championship on Sunday. It could be Samoa Joe. It could be Brock Lesnar. But I wouldn't be surprised if Samoa Joe pulled out a win this year just because he's that good.
Samoa Joe.
Samoa Joe.
Yes.
Pete Dunne. What hasn't been said about Pete Dunne?
Oh my God, we can go on
I
for
was gonna
hours
say,
about
we
Pete
pretty much
Dunne.
nailed it on every other.
He's the face of the UK brand, which is yet to make its own debut as like its own entity or show yet, but it is coming. He's had a hot year. He's been involved in 2 potential WWE Match of the Year candidates.
I can't wait for the next takeover to see what he's going to do.
If it's Bait Dunne 3, sign me up.
I can see that happening.
Yeah, that would be a good trilogy, like a good.
And then have him move on to I don't know.
And what
Trent Seven.
Yeah. Wolfgang would be a good one. I think you could put him in there with Mark Andrews too. Mark Andrews, him and Mark
I feel like
Andrews.
he's the only real heel that they have. In their small group of guys from the UK. He's like the
Joseph Connors, I guess, kind of. They didn't sign Devlin, which would have been a really good heel for them as well. But who knows? Maybe we'll turn somebody.
And even though he's a heel, the fans are behind him. That crowd at TakeOver Chicago, I've never in the history of watching. I've never seen a crowd chant UK in the United States. They were chanting UK. It was electrifying in that stadium.
Yeah.
The Miz doing some of his best work of his career in this most recent run as the Intercontinental Champion.
I think we were all quick to write him off as soon as the Superstar shakeup and he came over from SmackDown to Raw.
Yeah,
because he's one of those guys where half of this year was spent on SmackDown, where he was just gangbusters and some of the best feuds.
Talking Smack was gold for him, golden.
Yeah. It was that from that moment on.
Yeah. And then we all kind of like, when he got traded over to Raw, we're like, oh God, here we go. He's just going to get lost in the shuffle. But everything he's been doing on Raw thus far has been pretty solid.
I will say again now, I said there's things that hindered Samoa Joe. It was the beginning. Yeah, obviously there's a couple stumbles there. The Miz, I think the only thing that he's really suffering from is he's doing the same thing on SmackDown or on Raw that he was doing on SmackDown. Him and Dean Ambrose have been feeling like they've been fighting all year. But overall, definitely the best run of his life, and he has brought some prestige back to the Intercontinental Championship, which is nice.
I do like that with The Miz, too, that he's the guy that they feel comfortable enough with to kind of give him the really bad segments. Case example, when they had the Ball family on a couple weeks ago. Yeah. He was probably the only guy that they have on the roster that was able to kind of like traverse that sea of garbage and actually make something semi-presentable out of it. And I'm going to say it. He's the reason I'm invested in the Miz Dean Ambrose feud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No shot.
It's not Dean. No, well, it's not Dean, but Dean's not a bad wrestler, but he's not the reason I'm invested.
So we'll glaze over Braun Strowman. We've said everything we need to say about Braun Strowman to this point.
AJ Styles, Mr.
God.
TNA himself.
Still don't know what that means.
Mr. Global Force Wrestling himself.
Yes. Built the brand on his own back. If you what's funny is if you watch their like intro videos for like, I think Slammiversary was one of them, it literally just shows footage of a bunch of people who work for WWE.
I know. Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, AJ Styles,
Sting.
And they're like, here's all of our alum
that who are no longer
not
here.
working here anymore. AJ Styles started off the year as WWE champion. He did lose the belt at Royal Rumble, which is where we started this year that we're counting.
In an arguable match of the year candidate,
easily one of the best matches of the year with John Cena, which every match they've ever had against each other has been
fantastic.
Golden, and it's the only match against John Cena that AJ Styles lost. So.
It's kind of, he's had an up and down year as far as like, if you're looking at it from the championship perspective, he went in losing the belt. But even still after that, he's had quality matches and he's been the face of SmackDown. He's the face of that
guaranteed good match on SmackDown. If he's in a match with somebody, just recently he's been facing Chad Gable.
Yeah.
And
Gable looks like $1 million.
Looks like $1 million. He's really pulling Gable up. If they keep that momentum with Gable, they can really pull him up from the bottom of the card because they've been off TV for so long.
I truly, and I said this a second ago with Baron Corbin, SmackDown is the brand that you want to put your guys on if you want to get good quality matches out of them.
Right.
And he's a prime example. You've got him, you've got Sami Zayn, you've got Kevin Owens. Like, those are 3 guys right off the top of my head that can carry. Not to say carry, because, they're going up against guys who are capable, workers and stuff like that. But they are guys that you can get good matches out of. So, yeah.
It's exciting. I will, let's move on.
I think it's time to get into
pick a winner.
The winner.
After much deliberation, your winner of Audio Suplex Live, Male Wrestler of the Year thus far, goes to the face that runs the place.
They don't want none.
AJ Styles. Now, we did go in and say he hasn't been, as far as championship material is concerned. He hasn't been in any championship pictures other than more recently the U.S. title picture. But he's bringing prestige to that belt along with Kevin Owens. The fact that those two guys are fighting over that belt makes that belt one of the most valuable belts in the company right now.
And he looks damn good holding it. Did you see SmackDown on Tuesday?
Yeah.
He held it up after that whole segment, and it looks like and I hate the U.S. title design.
I agree. And he made it look good.
He makes it. They make that belt feel important. That's how the Intercontinental belt should feel that way. Like the Intercontinental title should feel the way the U.S. title does right now.
And again, let's rewind the clocks a year. If you would have told me that the U.S. belt would be more prestigious than the Intercontinental belt, I'd probably be a little bit surprised.
Yeah, well, here we are. Here we are.
What's our next category, Anthony?
Our category for the Audio Suplex Live Thusfar Awards, we're going to talk about Moment of the Year.
So these are, to provide a little bit of backfill, these are like, not necessarily matches, but just like things that happened. Like just things that got
segments,
people talking.
Before a match, after a match, in a interview segment, something like that, but not an actual match. Moment.
Yeah.
Match of the year will be one of the categories later. So.
Yes.
All right, so our nominees for Moment of the Year thus far, we have the Hardy Boys returning at WrestleMania.
Big moment. Huge moment.
Jinder Mahal attaining the WWE Championship.
Gender unhindered.
Gender unhindered. Hashtag gender unhindered. I like that. Let's market that. Is it too late?
Yeah.
Hashtag DIY.
You were waiting for that one. That's why we gave you this category.
Is that why? Oh, not wait, why? Huh? Too many whys. The turn for the Festival of Friendship.
Yep.
With KO and Jericho, and last but not least, the Undertaker retiring.
Question mark.
Question mark? Yes. We have to wait until next year to find out.
I would say it's pretty much stapled down.
Yeah, I mean, we can go into this a little bit, talking about each individual moment, and crazy that two of these were at WrestleMania.
Yeah, Festival of Friendship, man, hands down.
That was good, man. These were all fantastic moments. Like the Hardys coming back,
surprising moments,
may have been the pop of the century.
Yeah.
Like that crowd exploded, and the way they did it was fantastic. The whole red herring with the New Day coming out, and classy move. Jinder got everybody talking. Like the world still hasn't shut up about Jinder Mahal winning the belt. No, we haven't.
We're the world.
Yeah. No.
And then DIY, that hurt.
That hurt.
Yeah. We were there. That entire match was something we were behind, all the spots, even going home and rewatching it again, and then just out of nowhere, that was
they
when they
put up the WWE like we're done. The logo came up, and then the shit hit the fan.
There's three things that are guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and when the WWE copyright comes up at the end of the show, that's it. Nothing else is happening until this happened.
Well, that's not true.
Well, but you know what I mean.
It's happened to one other time.
Okay, cool. But and that paved the way for that was paved for by Jericho and Kevin Owens breaking up.
And I
like,
will
that
say,
was like the initial. This is going to be the year of friendships ending and tag teams disintegrating.
I will say the Jericho Kevin Owens one was one that even as a fan we kind of saw it coming. They were teasing it for a long time, where none of this other stuff was really teased at all until it happened. So those are all like kind of shock moments. Whereas KO and Jericho, we saw it coming. You know, they were kind of planting the seeds. We were just kind of waiting for it to happen. And then when it did happen, it was so like, oh my God, they really are doing this. And it was so brutal. And you felt bad for Jericho.
You could pinpoint it down to like the exact moment to when Jericho, the picture that we're showing up here, when Jericho flips over the clipboard.
And that's what it was. Your heart sank.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I knew this was coming, but Jesus, I wasn't ready.
And then
they had the big old painting, dog.
Last but not least, the ending of WrestleMania.
The potential retirement of one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Oh my God. No more fitting way to end that show than the jacket, the gloves, the hat, darkness.
And then it's sitting there all night.
That's like those Game of Thrones episodes that end with like no music and you're just like sitting there like
and
afterwards.
Then, like, the credits roll, and you're just
what do we do now? Like it doesn't it's not a good feeling, it's not a bad feeling, it's just like a numb feeling. You're just like, holy cow. Let's get into it. Let's go over the.
So, our winner for Moment of the Year, Audio Suplex Live Thusfar Award goes to The Undertaker retiring at WrestleMania.
Whoa! What else could it be? Like that
Nothing.
that's just like
I'd be offended otherwise.
when you have
That's my man.
every wrestler, WWE or otherwise, on Twitter sharing pictures of the Undertaker and hashtag Thank You Taker.
Yeah, it was insane.
It was, and it was the end of an actual era. I saw an infographic on Reddit not too long ago.
He was around for like 3 eras. Like
Insane.
it's the end of 3 eras.
Insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. I saw an infographic on Reddit recently that showed like a timeline of WWE, and in that they also showed like contextually some other things that happened, and like the second biggest bar on this graph was literally the undefeated streak at Mania. Like it spanned so many different eras. Like it was unreal.
Decades.
Like, yeah, absolutely. Like there will never be another Undertaker. As long as we
until the next Undertaker.
Until Vince McMahon finds a way to resurrect him. Yeah. So, moving on to our next category, we have the Female Wrestler of the Year, awarding the best female wrestlers in WWE thus far this year. Joe, let's take a look at the nominees. First off, we have current SmackDown Live Women's Champion Naomi, followed by current Raw Women's Champion Alexa Bliss. We have Becky Lynch, former SmackDown Live Women's Champion. Current and longest reigning of all champions, NXT Women's Champion Asuka.
Undefeated in general.
And the second generation superstar,
multi-time women's champion,
Charlotte Flair. Gentlemen, let's talk. Women's wrestling. In no less than like a week and a half or something like that, or 2 weeks.
Noticed, real quick, I noticed we didn't put the winner of Money in the Bank, Ellsworth, on this list.
No, James Ellsworth did not make the cut just because he's, one, not a woman. And yeah, actually not a woman. And two, didn't
he's
make
terrible.
the cut.
He did beat AJ Styles 3 times.
Allegedly. So let's talk about this real quick. So we're a couple weeks out from probably what will be one of the most, just another in a long string of WWE tournaments, with the Cruiserweight Classic, then the UK tournament, and then the Mae Young Classic coming up here.
I'm excited.
Women's wrestling is at a absolute fantastic place right now.
I feel like if you rewind the clocks 10 years and then anything before that, women's wrestling is a joke. It was literally, how can we get these women to rip off their clothes and be in bra and panties in front of us?
Well,
in between matches. Like, that's what women's wrestling was then.
Back when they used to do the Diva Search, they weren't hiring women wrestlers, they were hiring
models and teaching them how to take a bump.
And that's it. And now look where we're at. We have a period of time where there's an entire, first off, they're not even divas anymore, which is fantastic. There's a period of time now where there's an entire tournament dedicated to the best, in professional wrestling that is out there. We have a champion who has had the longest title run of pretty much anybody at any time right now. Like, she's of the modern era.
Longest current reigning.
Yeah.
Well,
beating Goldberg's actual record and his kayfabe record.
She hasn't beat the New Day's tag team ring, obviously.
But. No. But as far as like a singles title, right. I'm
longest reigning current champion in WWE.
Yes. Absolute domination. You've had them taking absolute chances on people like Naomi, who've been with the company for a long time. 2 of the 4 horsewomen, and Alexa Bliss, who we already talked about earlier, has been coming on like gangbusters. So
the only 2 double champions, SmackDown and Raw. So really, a lot of quality women here. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of Asuka, but
we hadn't heard.
I just, I don't know.
Yeah. So without any further ado,
let's see.
And the winner for the Audio Suplex Live Female Wrestler of the Year thus far, it's Alexa Bliss.
Duh.
Who else could it be?
Duh.
She has just been having the best year. And that's even with arguably one of the worst segments.
She's still...
Yeah.
She's still probably the best female wrestler of the year.
And when we say female wrestler, there's going to be people who hear this, all 5 of you, that will probably bemoan us for, Charlotte's the better wrestler, or Becky Lynch is the better
I would say
wrestler.
that Charlotte is a better wrestler than Alexa Bliss, but that's not all that we take into account. When
you have to character.
Exactly. Character development. How do they handle themselves?
How do they handle the crowd?
Her champion. She's great at handling the crowd.
Oh my God.
Hecklers. She's great.
She shut down the what chant with the effort that I usually take to just throw like paper into a garbage can, and she just made it look easy.
She's like, oh yeah, what? I was wondering the same thing. Like, what is it? Yeah, it's perfect.
She's fantastic.
She's not bad looking.
Yeah, she is everything that I think this modern era of women's wrestling can be. Obviously, I think with the caveat of saying she could get a little bit better in the ring, but that's going to come in time. She hasn't even remotely hit her prime.
And she's not even bad. She's not known for botching. There's,
No.
I mean, there's a lot of women wrestlers that, you're taking a risk, wrestling against them because they're a little bit more injury prone. But
Look, I know this is a weird comparison, but look at like a. I'm not doing this on purpose, I promise. Look at it like a Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes, by no stretch of the imagination, was the best wrestler in history. Like he had a handful of moves. He had an elbow drop to the head as a finisher, but it was character. He is in the Hall of Fame because of his character.
yeah,
And that is what Alexa Bliss is.
yeah, his charisma.
Yeah.
Yeah, which she does have, and she plays a
spades.
heel perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
She does a really good job. I'm interested to see in the future how she'll make her transition to face because nobody stays heel forever.
This
We
is
all
true.
know that.
This is true.
Almost nobody. So yeah, real excited about her future, and I think she's well deserved of this award.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a no-brainer on who the woman wrestler of the year was.
So we have one more
Our final
category to go over. And this is the big one, guys. This is the
match of the year thus far. So we have 5 potential candidates here. Our first candidate, which we talked about a little bit earlier, the Elimination Chamber match in which Bray Wyatt won his very first WWE Championship belt of any kind.
yeah.
He
was a tag team champion
Shoot,
before
he
that.
won his tag belt a little bit before that. You're right. So he won the WWE title. Second match, we have Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns.
And this was the one from, I believe it was Payback.
Yeah, Payback.
Yeah.
Which was a great match.
Fantastic.
Number 3, one of my favorite matches of the year, AJ Styles versus Juan Cena.
Never heard of him.
Maybe you know him as John. John Cena. He's an actor.
All I see there is a picture of AJ Styles floating in the middle of the air.
Oh, you can't see him?
Yeah, I don't.
It's not a good enough picture.
That's weird.
Number 3, we have one of the highest rating as far as Dave Meltzer's concerned matches in WWE history. We have Pete Dunne taking on Tyler Bate, and that was at TakeOver Chicago. We've also talked about this already. We were at that event.
You may have heard this before. We were actually.
We
at
were
that
there.
show.
We saw it live, so don't be
want
too
you to
jealous.
Don't ask us where our seats were, but we were there.
I want you guys to know we were there.
We were there.
And our final match is another one that we had already talked about a little bit, or we've touched on, is the triple threat tag between DIY, The Revival, and Authors of Pain. And we're talking about the one at
Orlando.
San Antonio.
Was it San Antonio?
No, it was Orlando.
It was Orlando, my dude.
Yeah, where they teamed up against the Authors of Pain. The DIY and the Revival teamed up.
Offset because Chicago's
you're
still
right.
in my head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Orlando.
We've had a lot of good matches this year, guys. This has been, people.
And there's a lot of matches that could have been in this list. It was hard to get these top 5 because there's been a lot of quality matches throughout. And obviously we didn't pick through, we tried to pick ones that had a little bit of impact as well as just being a quality match. So,
I mean, well, that's the perfect way to segue into the first nominee of this one. So Bray Wyatt. I mean, probably not the most technically great match out of all of these, but the impact that it had leading into the. Now, granted, we've bemoaned how much we didn't like the payoff to that feud.
yeah, after this, yes.
But the going into this with him and Randy Orton storylines kind of going in their own separate directions and then kind of coming back together the way that they did, and just to see Bray Wyatt, who had literally toiled around as. Sans maybe Dolph Ziggler, the prime example of how to start and stop somebody's momentum.
Right.
He has come on in the biggest way. Now, he's obviously kind of stumbled a little bit since then, but this match cemented him. And then the match itself was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean,
one of the easily the best match of the pay-per-view.
yeah, John Cena, AJ Styles, Miz, Dean Ambrose, and Baron Corbin. It was the psychology was there. The new Elimination Chamber looked great, by the way. But yeah, so
hopefully they bring that back.
Strowman versus Reigns.
Another great one where if you would have told me a couple months ahead of this, like, hey, you're going to be real pumped about a Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns match, I would have laughed in your face. Like, literally would have just laughed it off. But they really put on a great show, and they're wrestling this Sunday at Great Balls of Fire, and I'm just as excited about that match as I was for any of the other matches. But the one at Payback was a barn burner. It really was an exciting match.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Nominee number 3, AJ Styles, John Cena. Well, I mean, what can you say? 2 of the best of all time wrestling over the WWE Championship.
The respective face of their respective brands for years and years and years. And
This was a match where you honestly had no idea who was going to end up winning the match. It could have gone either way, and that also did the tiebreak. Not tiebreaker. He tied the all-time WWE Championship with that win at the Royal Rumble. Yeah. So historic moment as well for John Cena, at least.
Yeah, and what can we say about Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne that we haven't said already 1,000 times in this show?
Fight forever.
The chance, the crowd was absolutely just.
I've never been in a situation like that, nowhere even near that. Yeah. The amount of people that were just literally screaming their lungs out at that show was insane.
I nudged Corey maybe about halfway through the match, and I said, "Yo, dude, I think we're seeing like a genuine match of the year candidate right here. Like, no hyperbole. Like, this is something special."
And then a couple months later, here it is on our little PowerPoint.
Yeah. So.
Who would have thunk?
And then last but not least, we've talked about it a ton on the show as well. The strength of NXT's tag division this past year has been absolutely insane. And if there was any other match to showcase it, it was the triple threat tag team match at TakeOver.
And this is a situation where we've seen this match before. Mm-hmm. So they've had the triple threat before, and it always delivers.
Yeah.
This one, obviously,
any combination of these teams is just. It's gold.
Print money.
Yeah, just license to print money. And then, what we can't say anything more than like the spots with the double finishers, which we've already talked about. Like, so fantastic. It's been a great year so far for matches, man.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Let's find out our last award of the evening. Who is taking home Match of the Year thus far? Audio Suplex Live is proud to give the award to Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate for the UK Championship at TakeOver Chicago. Now, I will say we are a little biased because we were there, but even if I wasn't there rewatching that match, even being there rewatching it, I was just as excited rewatching it, and it was like it was beautiful. I don't know.
Level with me, guys. How many times have you guys gone back and watched this match, even though we were there for it?
Probably. Out of all the matches on the network, this may be one of the ones I've watched the most. I've watched it at least a couple times.
Yeah,
I've watched it. I'll only say once.
Really?
Yeah, it was once.
I've gone through.
I didn't need to revisit it because it was very vivid images in my head.
True story. I actually went home the next day after TakeOver Chicago.
After driving home for 4 hours?
Yeah, which is grueling. Pulled my roommates in. I'm like, guys, which like some of my roommates are casually into wrestling extension through me.
Yeah.
I pulled them into the room. I was like, guys, I got to share with you what I saw last night. And I sat them down and we like watched it. And I was just like, I tweeted out like a gif of like, I want to say it was like Marilyn Monroe against a headboard smoking a cigarette right after we saw this match. Like this is that kind of match. This is Thanksgiving and dessert in a wrestling match.
I will say, I almost watched this again just the other night. So me and Angela's my fiance, so we're hanging out, and I was like, I think we were watching like Orange is the New Black or something on Netflix. I'm like, all right, let's watch a wrestling match. Like, I've been watching Orange is the New Black all day with you. Let's take a break. We'll take a stop, and we're gonna watch a wrestling match. So we ended up choosing Sasha Banks versus Bayley at TakeOver Brooklyn.
Yeah, fantastic match.
Which is the match we chose because Angela likes Bayley a lot. So I was like, all right, you've never seen this match, we'll watch that. But I almost showed her this one, and actually, this is on my list of matches to try to get Angela into wrestling because she'll watch it with me, and she'll ask me questions, which I appreciate. But I think if I show her a couple decent matches, and this is definitely on my list of matches to show her, I think I can pull her in and trick her into being a wrestling fan like the rest of us marks.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, that was exciting. I had fun. This was a good time. The award themed show.
Luckily for you, this is the first annual, so it will be going on
every year until the end of the eternity.
Yeah, end of eternity. So
till the atom bombs drop.
To the end of the road.
Let me be the first to say thank you for tuning in this week to Audio Suplex Live. We do appreciate you guys listening to our show. If you are a fan or you enjoyed it at all, like our video on YouTube. That definitely helps us out a lot. Subscribe if you want more videos. Obviously, if you don't, you're not a wrestling fan, and you just happen to stumble across this video, how dare you?
Subscribe anyway.
Subscribe anyways, yeah.
It's free.
It's great. Yeah, we don't charge anything, but we do appreciate your fan base. We're really starting to expand ASL a little bit here. So jump on the bandwagon while the jumping's good. So you can say you were with us at the beginning before we blow up and become super
Buy
mega
low,
famous.
sell high. I mean,
Exactly.
capitalism 101.
That's what it's all about.
Except we're never going to get so high that you want to sell us. We're going to get high enough that you'll just want to keep us.
Hopefully.
Preferably, not like actually high. Like
Unless you're selling us to your friends, but you're also keeping a chunk of the, I don't know.
Yeah, you got to get in where you fit in, man. You know, that's the hustle right there. So
one last chance I do want to plug also this Saturday, if you're listening to this before Saturday, we have Uprising 11, which is huge.
Yeah.
We'll be recording that and producing some footage for that we will present to you guys soon. So you'll be able to check that out. But obviously seeing it live is going to be the best way. The best way to see Uprising 11 is in person. If you're unable to do that, we're going to give you a highlight reel. We'll give you a couple matches.
Yeah. They've got the Fight for Fortune ladder match coming up in that.
Yep, big ladder match.
Contract for a shot at any NOW title. Big Mike Elgin taking on Dre Jacobs, just to name a few matches. So.
Absolutely. So they're getting some big names in NOW now. Again, now's the time to jump on the NOW bandwagon. Mm-hmm. They're starting to get big, and hopefully we're able to help them out with that as well. So, yeah.
Before we get out of here, we got a couple other things we want to plug. So come say hi to us Saturday if you're listening to this and in the area. You want to come say hi to us. This Sunday, we will be doing, as we do on pay-per-view Sundays, at 1 p.m., Great Balls of Fire preview special. Me, Corey, the pre-show stopper, Sean McMahon, no relation, and Josh Fenn from our brother-sister show, Erectile Dysfunction, will be joining us in the studio to break down the card for #GBOF.
Submitting our picks. We should think of we gotta think of a punishment.
We really do. We've been dropping the ball.
We need something good. Something silly.
Next Thursday, we have a up and coming promotion / show based out of Ohio here.
Another Ohio-based indie wrestling show.
Yeah, we got the guys from Poser Wrestling.
Nice.
Going to be joining us, so that'll be coming up here pretty soon. Next week, I believe that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm telling you guys, get on the ASL train now.
If you have if you're a professional wrestler out there, you're an indie wrestler, and you're interested in possibly being on our show, contact us. You can either hit us up on Twitter or Facebook. I don't know if they can hit us up through YouTube.
It's not easy.
But contact us, and we'll see if we can work something out. We would love to have some more indie wrestlers from anywhere around the country. You don't have to be from Ohio. I know that's kind of our shtick lately, is being the Ohio indie wrestling scene. But really, we're interested in having you on the show. If you think you have some interesting stuff to talk about, we would love to interview you. Or if you have somebody you want to get us in contact with, we would really appreciate that as well.
Hit us up.
Because we just want to bring you the best wrestling content that maybe you haven't seen before. So that's why we're trying to focus on these indie guys that maybe you've never heard of, but you should definitely know who they are.
Yes, sir.
So we're trying to get that across. So we appreciate anything you can do to help us out, and we'll help you out with some quality content.
At Audio Suplex Live on Twitter, at Audio Suplex Live on Facebook, audiosuplexlive@gmail.com if you want to do it all official and give like a little letterhead and everything like that.
Yeah, if you want to send us an email, that will work too.
You can follow us on our individual accounts, me at xDrTX, if I can get it all out here before we drop the ball here.
Heel Corey, and heel spelled Heel.
Yeah,
Underscore Corey, Heel Corey.
Underscore.
And then at Ajax Rocks on Twitter.
Hey.
Jax
Rocks.
Jax Rocks.
Oh, jeez.
Hey. Jax Rocks. All right. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you guys Sunday.
Have a good week.
See you guys.
Hey guys, we would like to thank the band Wax for our intro and outro music. You can check them out at waxoh.bandcamp.com. You have been listening to the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.
You've been listening to the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.